Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sports Fall Jersey. Joe Archino back here, and the English Premier League returned to us in a big way this past weekend, and I think the word that kind of defined the opening weekend has to be excitement. 7 walk away as winners, 7 walk away as losers, and then another 6 walk away even with draws. And it's one of those things where I think it's pretty easy when you look at who the biggest winners of the first weekend for the Premier League were. Obviously, Chelsea 2-1 over West Ham, United 3-1 over Bournemouth, Liverpool the biggest of week 1 with their 4-3 thrashing of Arsenal, and then Manchester City, I think, although probably not as big of a statement in their win against Sunderland as the other 3, I still do think, though, that them in their own right deserve to kind of be put in that conversation. But obviously, to me, Chelsea, I think I love what you saw from them. Last season, it all kind of unrailed, but from the manager and Antonio Conte to Eden Hazard finding his scoring touch right away, and even Diego Costa, who has been a player whose name has been up in the air this offseason. Is Chelsea going to go after a new striker? Is he going to return to Atletico Madrid? Well, for Chelsea, if you're a fan of the Blues, I mean, I think everything you could have possibly wanted to happen in that match happened. You saw the team be resilient. You saw Conte just the utter excitement, and that's what he is. I mean, you saw him hugging people, going crazy, saying he wants to bring that excitement back to Chelsea. And I don't think there's any question that Conte did bring back that excitement. Hazard had his scoring touch. Costa had his scoring touch. They had the endurance. They had the excitement back. Everything for the Blues was great, and it's against a West Ham team that I think everyone's looking at and continues to agree that this is one of the next clubs on the rise in the Premier League. I think West Ham is an incredibly tough team to play against, no matter where you're playing against them, and Chelsea earned themselves an incredible victory. And to me, I know Liverpool was great, but if I'm looking around the Premier League, I think Chelsea made the biggest statement in their performance in Week 1, because when you looked at when they won their title with Jose Mourinho just 2 seasons ago now, the thing that really was the fulcrum to it all was, of course, Hazard and Costa. And the fact that the two of them just get off on the right foot right away, that's very important. And obviously, Antonio Conte is a manager that it's very easy to get unified around him. And we saw last season that locker room was very fractured. Jose Mourinho had lost that locker room. They had stopped rallying to his cause. And Antonio Conte is such a unique manager in the sense that he's as demanding as a guy like a Mourinho. He demands everything. He's a very strict guy. He's a micromanager. He likes every little detail to be accounted for, and he's got his strict rules. But he brings that uncontrollable energy, that thing that makes you rally to his side so easily, the bonds he forms with players. And sometimes even with a great manager, one of the best there ever has been or ever will be in Mourinho, sometimes I do think that's a big difference between the two of them. And Conte could not have his side looking better in his first performance. But then, of course, Man United with their 3-1 win over Bournemouth. And, of course, the man we're just talking about, Jose Mourinho's side, looks like they're in very good position. Paul Pogba, of course, we still didn't get a look at him yet, but Zlatan Ibrahimovic, we all knew was going to be one of the focal points of the club. 34 years old, but if you look at the way he played, he's not looking like a 34-year-old, and it's exactly what I thought was going to happen. It's one of those things where he is a physical specimen, and he is built perfectly to play in the Premier League. We looked at him create some chances for Rooney. We looked at his kick for his goal from 30 yards out. Tremendous. And I think he's going to have so many great opportunities this season. He's really a perfect example, and we're starting to see now that word again, excitement. There was no excitement with Man United under Louis van Gaal. They were just boring, and you can't be boring and be Manchester United. That excitement is back. Rooney is going to have his life become easier because of Ibrahimovic. When Pogba gets going, his life is going to be easier. And Ibrahimovic on his own right is going to have plenty of opportunities and be able to score at whenever he needs to. And I think Jose Mourinho is interesting because he really looks terrified to fail at this stage, because I think he understands how big of a job this is. Now, This is a guy who's been everywhere. He's been at Real Madrid. He's been at Chelsea. He's been at some of the biggest clubs in the world. But he understands, and he's been upright about it from the very start. There's just an inherent difference between being at Man United and being anywhere else. It's one of the biggest jobs the world has to offer. He's well versed in their history. He understands the significance and the pressure that comes with this job. And he honestly does look terrified every moment. But sometimes that's a good thing when you want it so bad. And I do think he's been upfront about that all along. And he has the squad now to make that happen. And once we see Paul Pogba, it's only going to look even better and even easier for Man United. But a very, very good win for them. And of course, that word excitement back at Old Trafford and for Manchester United. But then we look at Liverpool, and easily probably the most people's biggest winner of the first weekend in the Premier League, and rightfully so. The Arsenal fans leaving the stadium early as soon as they went up as big as 4-1. Arsenal makes a little pushback, but I really think, we know what Arsenal is. Arsenal is going to be a competitive club. I have them finishing in third, might even be fourth when it's all said and done, but this is what Arsenal is. Arsenal has not made significant signings in the offseason. Of course, Arsene Wenger likes to use that excuse. He was resting some of his big players who obviously had long summers because of Euro, but it's one of those things where Arsenal is what they are, and I think Liverpool is one of those clubs on the rapid ascent forward, and Arsenal has just been on a steady decline. It's difficult for Arsenal because you can't really say it's a tremendous decline because they've had these top finishes, but they've had the club that's got tremendous amounts of resources and tremendous players, but they're just not able to hoist down anything of significant value, and that has to fall on one person. And I think at the end of this season, it's finally going to come down to where Arsene Wenger has been there for so long, and he just hasn't had the results to warrant being there for so long. I mean, we look across the world at all these top managers, and if any other one of them had gone this long without delivering a major significant trophy, they definitely wouldn't be there any longer. So Arsene Wenger's future obviously not off to a very good start with what we saw in his 4-3 loss to Liverpool. But you have to love Jurgen Klopp. You have to love, again, like Antonio Conte, he brings that uncontrollable excitement and that energy that is just so easy to be fed off of for his players. Liverpool easily, I think, continues to ascend. And you don't want to get too caught up in changing any predictions you made before the season started, but that really was a significant statement Liverpool made in their first match. I mean, I think more than anything, Klopp is still one of the new kids on the block in the Premier League, but he's had more time. He's been able to spend more time with his club than a lot of these new managers have. So he's got a little bit of a leg up even on a Pep Guardiola or a Jose Mourinho or an Antonio Conte, and he's taking quite advantage of that. And then, of course, the last one, and probably didn't make the biggest statement, but still a statement regardless, Manchester City with their 2-1 win over Sunderland. Now, City's very interesting scenario because leading up to that game, I think the whole world kind of stopped for a minute and looked at the different kind of formation that Pep Guardiola was putting out there. Obviously, Joe Hart not starting was one of the biggest news items of the day, but I don't think that comes as to any of a surprise to any of us. When you're dealing with a guy like Pep Guardiola, it's Pep's way or it's the highway. He does things his own way, and it's different from everyone else, and it's why he's had so much success. And just reading some reports today that apparently Claudio Bravo will be brought into City on Thursday to kind of finalize the details of his contract. And look, I think you look at it, and Joe Hart to me just doesn't fit what Pep Guardiola wants to do. I honestly don't think he's had 2 strong years in a row with Manchester City. He played some of his best in the Champions League last season, but other than that, I think he's really struggled. Even in England this summer, we saw him struggle tremendously, and Pep wants a proven guy, and Hart has historically done some good things, but he's also struggled to be consistent, and consistency is the key to the things that Pep wants to do. And I think Claudio Bravo, if the reports are true, it is an upgrade over Joe Hart. Even though Joe Hart's done tremendous things there, the fans will want him. to win and to put together consistency, Claudio Bravo would easily be a better goalkeeper. But I think you look at City, the way they rallied back, the match was tied up. It was everything you want. Raheem Sterling looked very sharp, and that's one of the biggest things you obviously wanted to see. Obviously, a lot more pieces, a lot more things going to happen. City has a Champions League matchup that they have this week before their second Premier League match of the season. So kind of seeing how Pep navigates that swift thing with such a short turnaround from his match on Saturday to his match on Tuesday in the Champions League playoff. Very interesting to see, but I think regardless, everything good happening. But to me, Chelsea, of course, the biggest winner of the day. Liverpool just almost has to be either there or not too far behind. And then United, of course. But it was an incredible opening weekend in the Premier League. Just kind of kicking it all off with Leicester losing the way they did to Hull City. I think it all kind of reminded us and gave us the shocker we needed, that anything is going to happen in this league, and it's why the Premier League is the best in the world, because you're not going to get a result like that anywhere else, and we're in store for such a competitive season. But I still think, and I've said it all along, and I'm going to keep reiterating it will be the year of the Manchester clubs. It's just going to take them time, but Liverpool and Chelsea, and among many others, will have a lot to say about that to deny that from happening. But until the next time, Jersey, Joe Archino here with the Sports Fall. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Archino and on Instagram, Jersey_Joe_Archino, and I'll catch everybody in the next episode.